Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture just to see how those incidents affect our daily lives. Listen, we are in the middle. Well, actually, we're beyond the halfway mark. We are almost to the end of Bel Air Season 1. We are now in episode 8, which is entitled No One Wins When the Family Feuds. So, real quick, we're going to do a recap and then we're going to go over what my thoughts and predictions for the next episode, but what my thoughts of this episode was. So, as the episode opens, we see Uncle Phil out on the golf course with his son Carlton. He is playing Congressman Hernandez. I know it's Assemblyman, but I'll just interchange Assemblyman and Congressman. They're out there playing on some golf, 18 holes of golf. Carlton is the caddy, and that is part of his punishment for the police being called to his party that night. Carlton questions his father as to why he's being punished and Will is not being punished. And we find out that this is Will's birthday weekend. And so Will's punishment has been suspended for right now until he has his birthday. And then after his birthday, he gets his punishment. Uncle Phil talks to Carlton about his expectations of him. And Carlton, again, we understand that Carlton is snorting his Xanax. He has high anxiety and all those different things. But you remember when I told you in those other episodes, the way Carlton was raised is different from the way Uncle Phil was raised. And so Uncle Phil has a different expectation of Carlton than he does of Will. And he lets Carlton know that. So Carlton he understands it, but he's still uneasy about it. Uncle Phil has a conversation with Congressman Hernandez. He asks for his endorsement. Congressman Hernandez says he doesn't give his endorsement simply for a few things. That he needs to get his family together. Basically, Congressman Hernandez stated that Uncle Phil's Aunt Viv hasn't been seen on the campaign trail. She really needs to get back out there. Hillary is making videos, explicit, and we talked about that last episode. How if Uncle Phil's daughter was white and doing that, they would have had no problem with that. But because she's black, everything is hypersexualized. And also about the party and him smoothing the commissioner's hand to get that taken care of. So Uncle Phil understands now that that was one of the reasons. The other reason is that the congressman doesn't want to, because, what's his name? Frank Wilkes got into the race. The party is split. So half the party will do for Frank and half will do Uncle Phil. And then they will lose to the incumbent. So Uncle Phil, so that's where we leave them. We then pan to the airport, where Vi is coming in because she's coming in to help Will celebrate his birthday. Aunt Vivian is there. They meet Aunt Vi, and there is tension you can see between Vivian and Vi. Just tension. They don't. Vi doesn't even want to hug Vivian. So we see them go back and forth, and as Will starts talking about all the different things that or access of things that he has here, Aunt Vi is a little uneasy. She calls things bougie and all this other stuff. So you could tell that there's some tension going on. I'm just going to say Ashley's, again, this is an episode where Ashley was not really a big factor. She was just a backup dancer in her own family. Child. She wasn't no big factor in anything. So we're just going to continue on with Uncle Phil, Vi, and Vivian. So Vi gets there. She walks into the home. And she mentions something about the painting, like, oh, that's Diane. And Aunt Vivian says she hadn't seen that person in 20 years, and they got to talking or whatever. And Will says he's going to take his mother's luggage upstairs. As he does that, he gets a text from Lisa, who is in the pool room. Child, but Will couldn't get in the pool room fast enough. She had jumped on him like he was a nice old pot of jambalaya. I ain't going to tell you no lie. They talk, and basically, he tells her, I would love to be here and do all that, but my mom's here and I want to spend as much time as with my mom. I'm my mama's boy. And so she was like, fine. He was like, come meet her. And she's like, well, she don't want to be bothered with me. And he's like, you're important to me. So she's going to want to meet you. Come back to the party. Then we can kind of get together. And she's like, I'll do that. But you do have to talk to Carlton, because he's giving me the stank face. He's not talking to me. He's not doing any of those things. So fine, they agree to that. They agree to that. I'm going to call them Aunt Vi and Aunt Viv. Aunt Vi talks with Vivian, and she says that she is going to tell Will about his father. Oh, that sent Aunt Viv in a tizzy. She's like, no, you can't do that, because, he's going to hate us. So there's something there. But Vi is feeling some kind of way. She wants to talk to Will about his father. They have a conversation, because she says that she's jet lagged. She wants to go upstairs. She goes upstairs. She has a conversation with Will, and she says, well, I'm amazed. Let me go back, because as they're downstairs, the whole family gets together. They're talking about old times. Ashley's asking questions like, oh, well, what did y'all do this? So apparently, Ashley's grandmother passed away before Ashley had an opportunity to have any kind of memories with her. And anyway, the kids are asking questions and reminiscing about family reunions and all those things. And then Ashley asked the question, how come it stopped? And Vivian says, well, because, Grandma got sick, and then she got real ill, and she passed away. And so then Vi comes in, yes, and I took care of her. And so, I took care of her, before she died. I was her caretaker. Vivian says, well, Uncle Phil says, well, we sent some money home, and he stands by Vivian by that. And then Vi gets all into her, well, I took care of her. You just wanted to send money. That paid bills, but that didn't take care of her. I had to change her bedpans and stuff like that. Vivian's like, well, hey, if you'd asked, we'd have sent money for a caretaker. And then they just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to the point where Will had to jump in and say, look, you all did this when Grandma was sick, and it didn't help then, and it's not going to help now, and it's my birthday, and we're going to get along for my birthday. So that stops that. So, again, I talked about Vi and Will were up there talking, and he was asking questions. She was saying that I was amazed that you remember certain things. What else do you remember? And he was going back to like when he was 4 years old. I remember when some girl kissed me. So then she asked him, did she remember his father? And he's like, just bits and pieces, but I don't remember a whole lot. So then we pan over to Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv. She's in her art studio doing her art. He walks in. He says, oh, you're, doing paintings for Reed. And she's like, no, I'm doing paintings for this fellowship that she's applying for. And she has to have work. And he's like, yeah, I remember those deadlines. And they exchanged a glance. Now, in my opinion, that glance was like, they wanted to talk and they wanted to be intimate. But Vivian is being a little stubborn about that. And I don't think Uncle Phil knows exactly how to approach her with all of that. So he talks about, you're doing your work and stuff like that. Are you still going to be sleeping in here? Or are you going to come to bed? And so she was, she kept going on about the deadline. And again, that's where that glance happened. And then she was like, oh, let me back up. Prior to this, they had a conversation with Hillary. Hillary is still was talking about how she was going to keep the photo up. Kylo has been pressuring her to do her next video. She's a little apprehensive about it, but she wants to do it. She talks to her parents about it. They're like, no, we don't really want you to do it. Uncle Phil gets really upset about that. Vivian tells Hillary, is this who you really are? Doing that type of video, is this who you really are? You need to think about that. So then we get to what I was talking about with Uncle Phil. So Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv. Aunt Viv tells him, you know what? Well, Uncle Phil says, you didn't have my back with Hillary. And she was like, I've learned not to argue in circles with her. And she says, we have a bigger problem. She says, Vi wants to tell Will about Lou. And he was like, hell no. No, the hell no, she ain't gonna tell him nothing. And he says, you got to stick with me on this. We got to, stick together, that we got to convince Vi not to tell Will. And she says, well, I agree with you, but she's feeling like she wants to tell Will about the father. Okay. After that, and I may not be in order, y'all, because I'm trying to go off my memory and some of my notes, because I don't have my notes going in chronological order. So we see Uncle Phil tell Jeffrey that he wants him to set up a meeting with Frank Wilkes. And he also tells him that he wants him to keep Lou away from Will. And so Jeffrey is looking kind of funny. He's like, well, why would we want to do that? He says, Uncle Phil is like, I just don't want him to derail all the progress we've done with Will. He is, he's no good for him. And he went into all these explanations. And we just noticed that Jeffrey is looking kind of funny. So he sets up the meeting with Fred Wilkes. Basically, the meeting with Fred Wilkes, Uncle Phil says, look, with both of us running, we are splitting the ticket, and we're having a debate. Whoever wins the debate, the loser will drop out. Both of them agreed to that. That's fine. We get back again with Jeffrey. They're boxing or sparring or whatever. And Jeffrey is like, I'm feeling a little uneasy about what you've asked me to do for Will. And he says, I have a son, and that's, I don't know if I would want to know that somebody is trying to deliberately keep me from my son. Uncle Phil is like, you don't know Lou. Lou is bad news, and we don't want him there. And Jeffrey was like, well, I don't feel like I'm going to do it. And Uncle Phil was like, the Yamacraw came out of his butt. Then he was like, you work for me, you're going to do it. So then it just pans off because Jeffrey was looking a little funny about that. So let's get back to Vi and Will. They have a great day on the pier. They ride rides, they do everything, and they start having a conversation. And she's talking about how beautiful it was there. And he was like, yeah. Will was like, if it wasn't for Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil, I don't know what I was going to do. Boy, Aunt Vi got in her feelings. And she was like, wait a minute, you act like I didn't do anything, like I didn't raise you. And he's like, no, Mama, it's not that. What I'm trying to say is, I'm grateful for being out here and for the experience. And I am, I was upset, but I am glad you made the decision for me to come out here. And so Will then got to talking to his mother, saying that, hey, you need to tell me about my dad, what's going on. And, she was pretty much gaslighting him. You're just a wonderful guy. And he was like, no. He says, I have a right to know. I'm 17. I'm not 7. Please tell me what's going on. So Aunt Viv does a nice little cursory dance around what went on. She basically told him that his father was a scammer. He had big ideas but didn't have good follow through. He owed a lot of people money in Philly. She had to pay his debts, and that's the cycle that she went. She loved him. That was the cycle that she was in until she got pregnant with him. And once she got pregnant with him, she got a little wiser, and she realized that he was basically playing her. So she decided that she no longer wanted to be played. And once she decided that, he knew that he couldn't use her anymore, and he left. Will accepted that. So then we get to the party. Well, let's go back before we got to the party, because on that day too, Vi fixed breakfast for Will, all of his favorites, and she got to mentioning some stuff about Vivian. She was talking about how Vivian was the wild child. She jumped on stage with D'Angelo, which I thought was funny. She also talked about how she had given Vivian her first canvas and paint set because she saw that she had a talent. And Vivian played it down like, no, you only did that because you were on the phone talking to your boyfriend, and you weren't paying me no attention while you were supposed to babysit. Vi was feeling some kind of way about the way she said it. So then let's just fast forward to the party. Where are we? So before we get to the party, let me just say one thing about Hillary and Kylo. She talks to Kylo and says that she has like 4 different ways that she can do this video. And he was like, well, I was expecting that. And apparently he had just kind of researched Hillary. And he basically told her, he says, that video is good. You've gotten what you want. You've gotten the sponsors and stuff like that. And now you want to do something different. And she was like, and he just basically told her that you didn't finish college. Oh, he just listed a whole rundown, a list of things about how she does stuff, and when things don't go her way, she leaves. She goes away. And she was like, you know, she got upset about that. And he told her, you know, you could leave. And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna take my sponsors and everything like that. And he says, well, you still have that kill clause that you have to honor. And basically, she was looking funny. He was like, oh, you didn't read your contract. So basically, what happens is she leaves the house. She owes him $50,000, and he keeps all the content that she did in the house. So I was like, oh, man. Hillary, you didn't have your father read over that contract and realize that you had to pay that $50,000? A whole lawyer for a father, and you didn't think it was necessary for him to at least read the contract? Sure, please. Anyway, but she's out of the contract. She talks to Jazz. She apologizes to Jazz for like spazzing out on him when he had her back. She apologized. He accepted the apology. The party goes on. So Will gets his gifts and things like that. You know, his mother is very anxious for him to open the gifts. She asks Carlton, what did he get him? He said, I got him some leg weights. And she's like, oh, that's a very thoughtful gift. So she has Will, because Yamakra is stuck in traffic somewhere. So I guess he hasn't gotten back from the meeting that he had with Fred Wilkes. So he's stuck in traffic somewhere. Excuse me. And he's on his way. And so Vi says, well, let's open the gifts. She has her son Will to open the gifts. And first Vivian's like, no, we need to wait. And she was like, you know, we don't need to wait this, you know, have the party waiting for, you know, for Uncle Phil. He just get in where he fits in. So she has him to open her gift first. He does that, and it's a picture of Will and his mother when Will was an infant. It looked like when he was first born, and it was such a beautiful picture. And she's holding him and everything like that. And he was like, oh man, this is so beautiful. When was this? Who took the picture? And before she could say who took the picture, Vivian's like, well, keep opening the gifts. This is a gift for me and Uncle Phil. Child, he opens that gift, and Uncle Phil and Aunt Vid done gave him a limited editions of some Jordans, child. And Aunt Vid was 65,000 hot. She was like, you were always trying to upstage me with my son. And, you know, she was like, well, you the one wanted to open the gifts. And I didn't know that Phil went and bought some real expensive shoes. She says, I knew he was going to buy some shoes, but I didn't realize it was something like that. And she's like, you tried to upstage my thing. You're always doing stuff like that. And they go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And before you know it, honey, they are shouting and fighting and fussing and going off, and you don't respect me, you don't love me, you upset with me, Vivian. This is Vivian talking. You're upset with me because I'm successful. She's like, no, you just never acknowledged the stuff that I did. What am I acknowledged for? You're supposed to do it. You're the strong one. I mean, they just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then they split. And baby, Will is upset, and he has a right to be, because they ain't had no business showing out like that at the party. So Vivian goes to her studio, and Aunt Vi goes outside. Carlton goes up there and he talks to his mother and basically explains that, hey, you need to go talk to her. And he was like, it doesn't matter. That's your sister. Y'all supposed to get out there and work it out. Will goes out there and talks to his mom and says basically the same thing. And they sit down and they talk. They basically talk it out. They say what's wrong. They talk about what's wrong. They forgive each other. Or, you know, they decide not to do no arguing because it doesn't make any sense. They tell each other they love each other. They come back in and party. And they continue the party. Let me make sure I hadn't missed anything. Got you. The last little thing about that is that Jeffrey came in Carlton and Will made up. Carlton just basically told him, I can't control what Lisa does or who she wants to be with. He says, because we had broken up way before then. He tells him that, when you came here, I was already in a tailspin. And then you dating Lisa just sent me over the edge. He says, I'm working on myself. I can't tell Lisa who to date. The only thing, and if you want to date her, that's fine. The only thing I ask of you is that you don't hurt her. So Will and Carlton is fine. When that happens, Jeffrey walks in. When Jeffrey walks in, he goes straight to the office. Will follows Jeffrey to the office. Jeffrey looks like he's about to put a note on the desk. I think he was about to do a resignation letter. That's what it seemed to me. But Will asked him, could you help me find my dad or let me know where he's at or something like that? I want to get in contact with him. So Jeffrey is like, okay. A little hesitant, but he tells him okay. So that's basically the episode. It was a lot of stuff thrown at us at one time. A whole lot of stuff thrown at us at one time. So I just wanted to kind of go over my thoughts on certain things. And baby, the first thing I want you to go over is the fact that Uncle Phil is ruthless. Old Yamacraw he is going to win at any and every cost. He don't care how that affects anybody. And what's so interesting about that is that I have been talking about how, Uncle Phil is the settled person in that male energy, which he still is. I don't want anybody to take that away from him. And I was always thinking that Jeffrey was the one bringing out that little dark side or getting stuff handled. Jeffrey is the person that goes and handles the stuff that Uncle Phil wants him to handle. So it's not really Jeffrey making all the decisions. It's really Uncle Phil. Jeffrey is on top of stuff, but it's really Uncle Phil. Number one, he has contacts everywhere. Because for him to be able to talk to the police commissioner over the police chief, come on, Uncle Phil. The way he still has Reed in his sights. Viv better tread carefully, because I know she realizes that she got her a hitter in Uncle Phil. She may be able to, because his soft spot, Uncle Phil's soft spot is Vivian and Hillary. Those are his soft spots. And I think she knows that, but you don't want to test this man, because I do believe Uncle Phil have somebody got. You really want to know the truth about it. He's ruthless. We find a little bit of background information about Aunt Vivian and what my opinions are about her character is. Aunt Vivian she seems like she has that youngest child, baby child mentality. I don't want to call it a syndrome, but it's a mentality. And basically what it is that the youngest child, the oldest child is usually the one that was made to be responsible. And that seems like Aunt Vi. She has she's responsible. But Aunt Viv is the child that, hey, she didn't have as much responsibility. Everybody always assisted her in the things that she wanted and desired. And she always expected that to happen. She thought that that's just the way things are supposed to go. You as my sister, you're supposed to take care of me. You're supposed to do all those things. You're supposed to take care of mama, because that's what you're supposed to do. And so I don't want to say that they're ungrateful, but they don't see it as something they need to be grateful about. They just think that that's just the way things are. That's just what you're gonna, what you're supposed to do. Vi was like, I was learning how to cook, and Vivian was able to go and do whatever. Vivian thought that that's just the way it's supposed to be, and she did not understand. She did understand it, but she just didn't think that she should have done that. And Aunt Vi, and this is where that strong woman trope comes in. that when you need help and when you want a certain type of help, you're so busy doing everything, you don't know how to ask for help. And you're hurt. She was hurt. She was hurt that Vivian didn't say thank you for being the person to do this. Thank you for doing it. Every time when Vi would say the things that she would do for Vivian, Vivian would diminish that or make light of it. You know, particularly when Vi said, you know, I bought her first paint set, and which was something because she saw that Vivian had talent. Vivian is like, no, you didn't do it for that. You did it because you wanted to be on the phone and talk to your boyfriend. You just wanted me to be busy with something, but you really didn't care. That type of attitude. And I see that attitude that she has with Uncle Phil. You know, she's expecting it. She's just expecting that he was going to do all that. And he was supposed to know that she was unhappy and all of these different things. So those types of dynamics are going on with there. The thing that I want her to consider is that you don't want to push Uncle Phil too far because, you know, we're finding out that Uncle Phil is ruthless. And Uncle Phil will be done got somebody. Reed will be in a box somewhere on its way to Timbuktu fooling around with Uncle Phil because he is ruthless and he's competitive. And if he feels like Reed is in his way, he will get rid of Reed. That's just point blank period. We are learning that Jeffrey has a child. And he has a soft spot for fathers not seeing their child. It's going to be a time that they're going to have to give us Jeffrey's backstory. Because I would love to know how him and Uncle Phil got to be like this. What's going on with this child? Who is Jeffrey's baby mama? Mother of his child. We need to know these things. We need to know this information. We would love to have some more backstory about Jeffrey. And Jeffrey was to the point that this was such an issue with him that he was about to resign. So we're going to see how Jeffrey and Uncle Phil's relationship is going to be, simply because Jeffrey is going to help Will. He has a soft spot for Will like he has a soft spot for Ashley. And he is going to help Will find his father. And Lord have mercy, I am waiting with bated breath to see what Aunt Viv, Vi, and Uncle Phil did to keep Lou away from Vi and Will. It must have been something. Curious about what's going to happen with Hillary, because Hillary's going to have to make some decisions and she's going to have to be consistent and stick with it, because now she is on the hook for $50,000 to Kylo. Her father is mad at her, so I don't know if he's going to pay that $50,000. I don't even know if she's going to ask, but she's going to do what she needs to do to pay that $50,000. She's currently staying in a hotel. I don't know what she's going to do or how she's going to broach this to her parents, but I sure hope she does, and I hope they come up with some contract with her in regards to that. Ashley, there was nothing big on Ashley, which is sad because Ashley has a good, I would love to have more storyline with Ashley, but we just, there's just not enough there for right now. Will and Carlton, it's just going to be that Will is going to be with Lisa. I don't know how long that's going to last, particularly with Will not telling her the truth of why he's there. Carlton, I think, is going to get into some issues with his father. His father's going to be expecting him to do something and he's not going to follow through because his anxiety is going to kick in. But I am glad to see that Carlton and Will are in a better place. It was interesting because Vi said that, when Will was a certain age, he asked for a brother, and Carlton was like, well, I had asked my parents for that, right after they had Ashley, and she was like, now you have a brother. So it's going to be interesting to see this relationship between Will and Carlton get stronger. I am glad that they dramatized this whole thing because it's nice to see how they go from here being like not enemies, but just two people who didn't know each other, with their own personal issues, to here now they know each other's issues, they understand what's going on, and they're just it's going to be interesting to see how that bond progresses. Tell me what y'all think of the show. Please like, please comment, Please subscribe. If you are already subscribed, please hit that notification bell. Probably on Wednesday, I think, is when they drop the trailer for the next episode, and I will do a review on that. And maybe in between, I will do a deep dive in these characters and what I think, because they are just interesting. So again, let me know what you think. And as always, people, bye-bye.